Hello, hello. Today we're covering 20 hidden gems you seriously need to know about action RPGs, roguelites, card games, Metroidvanias, and more. Let's get into it. Mina the Hollower is the latest game from Yacht Club Games, the same team behind Shovel Knight. You play as Mina, a hollower by trade, meaning she can literally dig into the ground. She arrives on a cursed island called Tenebrous Isle to investigate why the power generators are failing, and things go sideways fast. The game is top-down, like the classic Game Boy Zelda games, and it nails that feel completely. You explore 6 large areas connected to a central hub town, in any order you choose, fixing generators and uncovering what's really going on. Combat is built around Mina's whip and a bunch of secondary weapons, each with a completely different moveset. The burrowing mechanic is the twist that sets it apart. You can dodge underground mid-fight, sneak past hazards, or find hidden items buried below the surface. There's a light RPG system where you spend bones to level up. The boss fights are creative and tough. Quartet is a retro-inspired JRPG with a clever twist. The game starts with 4 completely separate stories, and you choose which one to play first. Each protagonist has their own background, their own problems, and their own reason for getting pulled into a bigger conflict. Alexandra discovers she can use a mysterious deck of magic cards. The others have their own circumstances. You play each story for a couple of hours before the 4 threads eventually come together into one big narrative, about a war over the control of magic. The turn-based combat system is one of the friendliest around. Buffs and debuffs are clearly displayed, attack order is shown on screen, and AP regenerates each turn, so you're never stuck without options. The real standout mechanic is the character swap system. You have 4 fighters active and 4 in reserve. Swapping someone in gives them an immediate turn, and reserve characters regenerate AP faster. Inscryption is one of those games that's genuinely hard to explain without ruining it. On the surface, it looks like a deck-building roguelike. You build a hand of woodland creature cards and battle through encounters against a figure known only as Leshy, a shadowy card game opponent trapping you in a cabin. You play cards, sacrifice weaker ones to summon stronger ones, and try to tip the scales, literally, since damage is measured by weight on a physical scale in-game rather than HP bars. But the cabin itself is also an escape room. Leshy lets you get up from the table and walk around, and the whole space is filled with puzzles that reward you with new cards, cheats, or hidden abilities. And then, the game starts doing things you don't expect at all. The story goes places that are deeply strange, layered, and genuinely memorable. It's about 8 to 10 hours long, and those hours keep pulling the rug out from under you in the best possible way. From Evil Empire, the same studio behind Dead Cells, the Rogue Prince of Persia is a 2D roguelite action game that lives and dies on how good movement feels. And the movement here is exceptional. You play as the Prince of Persia, a cocky fighter who made a terrible mistake and doomed his city to a Hun invasion powered by dark magic. He's blessed by a shaman with the ability to rewind to a camp outside the city every time he dies, letting him try again with the knowledge gained from previous runs. The defining mechanic is wall running. Not just vertical walls either. You can run along background walls, use them to vault over shield-bearing enemies, gain height for a plunge attack, or chain acrobatic combos mid-fight. Combat uses a dual weapon system, with a primary melee weapon and a secondary tool, and a kick move that lets you send enemies into each other or into traps. Mouse. PI for Hire is a first-person shooter that looks exactly like a 1930s cartoon, rendered entirely in hand-drawn black and white with that classic rubber hose animation style. You play as Jack Pepper, a former war hero turned private detective in the city of Mouseburg. What starts as a missing persons case unravels into a full-blown noir conspiracy involving crooked cops, organized crime, underground cults, and some genuinely dark secrets about the city itself. The gunplay takes heavy inspiration from classic boomer shooters like Doom, fast, fluid, and satisfying. You build up a weapon wheel over the course of the game, with pistols, shotguns, machine guns, and some wilder cartoon-flavored weapons. There are also unlockable movement abilities, like wall running, double jumps, and a grapple hook that open up traversal as you progress, giving it a Metroidvania feel alongside the shooting. Mutant Mudds Collection bundles together Mutant Mudds Super Challenge and Mutant Mudds Deluxe into one package, giving you a massive amount of hard-as-nails 2D platforming. You play as Max, a kid who grabs a water-powered jetpack and a water cannon to fight off an alien, muddy invasion. The core mechanic is the ability to jump between 3 layers of depth: the foreground, the main playfield, and the background. You're constantly shifting between these planes to dodge enemies, reach new platforms, or find hidden passages. It sounds simple, but the level design gets extremely creative with it. The game pulls no punches with difficulty if you grew up on NES-era platformers and love that kind of precision challenge. This one delivers in full. There are over 100 levels across both games, plus ghost levels with remixed challenges. The pixel art has a chunky, colorful look that works great both on TV and in handheld. Inside is a dark, wordless 2D puzzle platformer from Playdead, the same developers who made Limbo. You play as a young boy, moving silently through an oppressive, industrial world. There is no dialogue, no tutorial, no UI. The game communicates everything through environment, atmosphere, and visual design alone. You run, jump, pull objects, control water currents, and solve environmental puzzles that gradually grow more complex and strange. The tone is deeply unsettling. The world feels wrong in a way the game never explains upfront, and that mystery is a huge part of why you keep pushing forward. Without giving anything away, the story takes some genuinely shocking turns, and the final act is one of the most memorable sequences in indie gaming. The whole experience lasts about 3 to 4 hours, which makes it feel like a short film more than a traditional game. It's dense, focused, and leaves you thinking about it long after the credits roll. Pipistrello and the Cursed Yoyo comes from Brazilian studio Pocket Trap, and it's one of the most charming action-adventure games on the Switch. You play as Pipit, a young bat from a wealthy family who uses a yo-yo as his weapon of choice. During a visit to his Aunt Pepper's mansion, a gang of criminals breaks in and zaps her with a soul-stealing machine. Part of her soul ends up inside the yo-yo, making it sentient, and she ends up guiding Pipit from inside it while he tracks down the scattered pieces of her soul across the city of New Jolt. The gameplay is top-down like classic Zelda, but the yo-yo opens up all kinds of creative possibilities. You can bounce it off angled walls to hit enemies around corners, use pinball-style bumpers to clear rooms, and chain tricks together to reach hidden areas. There's an upgrade system where you sign contracts with a cousin character you pay off a debt over time using coins, but while in debt, you suffer debuffs like reduced health or lower damage. TowerFall is one of the best local multiplayer games ever made, and it's a crime more people haven't played it. At its core, it's a 2D arena combat game, where players battle each other using bows and a limited supply of arrows. The catch is, you only get a handful of arrows at a time, so you have to pick your shots, dodge incoming fire, and physically run to collect arrows you've already fired. You can catch arrows out of the air, shoot down to deflect them off the ground, or just stop enemies from above. The controls are simple enough to pick up in 2 minutes, but the skill ceiling is high, and matches are intensely fun. There's also a single-player co-op mode, where you and a friend fight through waves of enemies together, which is genuinely great. The presentation is clean pixel art with tight, responsive controls. Maps are small enough that everything is always visible, which keeps matches fast and chaotic. CrossCode is an action RPG that plays like a top-down adventure game set inside a fictional online MMO called Crossworlds. You play as Leah, a player character who has been stuck in the game with no memory of who she really is or how she got there. The mystery behind her situation drives the entire story, and it's genuinely well written with a big cast of memorable characters. Combat is fast and uses a combination of melee attacks and a ranged ball you can throw and bounce off walls and enemies to pull off puzzle-like attack chains. As you progress, you unlock elemental combat modes that each change how your attacks feel and what strategies work best. The puzzle design is excellent. The game gives you mechanics early and then pushes them to creative extremes as you progress. The world is huge, with distinct biomes, side quests, and a surprising amount of content for the price. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is a 2D, side-scrolling action game developed by the Game Kitchen, the team behind Blasphemous, and it brings Ninja Gaiden back to its classic roots while adding modern depth. The story follows Kenji Mozu, a young ninja defending Hayabusa Village while Ryu Hayabusa is away in America. When the barrier between the human world and the demon world collapses, a massive supernatural army invades, and Kenji is forced to forge an unlikely alliance with the Black Spider clan to have any chance. The core gameplay is fast, brutal, 2D hack and slash with a katana as your main weapon. But the big mechanic is ninja fusion, combining Kenji's powers with his Black Spider partner Kumori to unleash devastating abilities. The game also features a guillotine boost, a mid-air bounce move that lets you chain attacks off enemies, walls, or anything you can hit. It's technically demanding, but extremely rewarding once the movement clicks. The Last Campfire is a puzzle adventure game from Hello Games, the studio behind No Man's Sky. It's a much smaller, quieter experience, a meditative journey through a mysterious world about finding meaning and helping others. You play as Ember, a small, lost creature trying to find their way home through a strange land. Along the way, you meet other wanderers who are trapped in a state of hopelessness, and you solve environmental puzzles to free them. The puzzles are thoughtful and gentle, never punishing, just creative, and many involve manipulating light, moving objects, or rethinking how you look at the space around you. The game is narrated beautifully, and the tone throughout is warm, melancholy, and hopeful at the same time. It runs about 4 to 6 hours, and is the kind of game you play when you want to unwind with something that feels meaningful. It's genuinely emotional without being heavy-handed. Transistor is an action RPG from Supergiant Games set in a gorgeous sci-fi city called Cloudbank. You play as Red, a singer who has lost her voice, wielding a massive sword called the Transistor that can speak and holds the consciousness of someone she cares about. A group called the Process has taken over the city, erasing everything in its path, and Red is caught in the middle. The combat system is built around a pause and plan mechanic called the Turn. You can stop time, plan out a sequence of moves, then watch them execute all at once. You collect functions from defeated enemies, which act as abilities, and each one can be used in 3 different ways: as an active attack, a passive upgrade, or a modifier for another ability, leading to a massive number of build combinations. The story is told in fragments, through environment and dialogue between Red and the voice in the Transistor, and it builds to something genuinely moving. Wargroove 2 is a turn-based strategy game that plays like a modern, polished take on the old Advance Wars formula. You move units across grid-based maps, capture structures, and try to outmaneuver your opponent through careful positioning and resource management. The sequel adds a roguelike conquest mode, which is a major highlight. You pick a commander and battle through a randomly generated campaign, collecting permanent bonuses and managing your army between fights. There's also a brand new faction called the Florin, plant-based warriors who bring fresh unit types and mechanics to the table. The campaign follows a pirate-themed story full of humor and personality, and the writing is genuinely charming. The game includes full map and campaign editors, which means the community has been producing custom content since launch. For strategy fans, it's deeply satisfying, highly replayable, and the Switch version is perfect for handheld sessions. Thronefall is a stripped-down kingdom defense game that feels like someone took the tower defense genre and removed everything that wasn't fun. You build up a small kingdom during the day, placing structures, walls, towers, and farms, then defend it through the night against waves of enemies. You also control a hero character directly during combat, running out to fight alongside your defenses. Gold and placement matter a lot, but the game keeps everything readable and clear. There are no massive menus, no ability trees full of options you'll never use. Each run takes around 20 to 40 minutes, and there are multiple maps with different layouts and challenges. After completing a map, you can rerun it with modifiers to crank up the difficulty, and the game supports a score system for players who want to optimize. It has a clean, minimal art style that runs perfectly on Switch. The whole thing is designed around short sessions, and it nails that.
And challenges for you. While Thronefall is a fairly compact experience, where beating the main campaign is likely to take you around 8 to 12 hours, you can always replay levels at a higher difficulty to complete quests.
Bastion is the debut game from Supergiant Games, and it still holds up beautifully. You play as the Kid, a young man waking up after a catastrophe called the Calamity has shattered the world into floating islands. You move through these environments, collecting fragments of a lost city called Caelondia, and the game's narrator, a gravelly-voiced old man named Rux, describes everything you do in real time. That narration is one of gaming's coolest tricks. It reacts dynamically to your actions, giving the game a storytelling quality unlike anything else. Combat is real-time action with 2 weapon slots pulled from a large variety of options: hammers, shotguns, rifles, and more, plus an active ability. You can activate idols that buff enemies and debuff you in exchange for better rewards, essentially creating your own difficulty modifiers. The story builds toward a meaningful choice that gives the whole experience extra weight on a second playthrough.
Big old fella pops out in front of the kid.
Mio, Memories in Orbit is a Metroidvania from French studio Deux Dixiem, and it might be the most visually striking game on this entire list. You play as Mio, a small female robot who wakes up with no memories on a massive technological ark called the Vessel, a ship that should have been maintained by guardian AIs called Pearls, but they've all gone offline. The place is overgrown, falling apart, and full of rogue machines. Your job is to explore its interconnected biomes, defeat bosses, and recover your memories, each of which unlocks a new ability. You start with a double jump and a basic attack, then gain things like a grapple using Mio's tendril-like hair, wall climbing, ceiling traversal, and more. The combat rewards staying airborne. Aerial attacks reset your jump when they connect, allowing extended airtime during both combat and exploration. The backgrounds in this game are breathtaking, easily some of the best 2D environments in recent memory.
The wish to save the sun.
Ender Lilies is a dark fantasy Metroidvania that pulls from the same atmosphere as Hollow Knight, but builds its own distinct identity. You play as Lily, a young girl who wakes up in a crumbling kingdom called Land's End, where a mysterious rain has transformed the living into undead monsters called the Blighted. Lily is one of the only ones immune to the Blight, and she teams up with the spirit of a knight named Julius, who fights on her behalf. As you progress, you purify the spirits of the Blighted knights you defeat, and they join you as additional attacks and abilities. Each boss you beat adds to your moveset. Some give you ranged magic, some give melee slashes, others add powerful abilities. You can equip a set of these spirits to customize how you fight. The world is interconnected and beautifully designed, full of secret paths and optional bosses. The story is dark and emotionally resonant, told through item descriptions and environmental details rather than cutscenes. Sea of Stars is a turn-based RPG that wears its SNES-era influences openly. It clearly loves Chrono Trigger and Super Mario RPG, but it earns every comparison. You play as 2 children of the solstice, Valir and Zale, who combine the powers of the moon and sun to perform eclipse magic, powerful enough to fight the monstrous Dwellers, created by an evil alchemist called the Fleshmancer. Combat is built around a timed hit system, where pressing buttons at the right moment boosts attacks and reduces incoming damage. There's also a live mana system, where normal attacks generate mana for skills, and a lock mechanic on enemies that requires hitting specific damage types in sequence to break their defenses before a big hit lands. The game also has a wheels minigame, like a board game played at taverns throughout the world, which becomes its own deep side obsession. Absolum is a roguelite beat-em-up from Dotemu and Guard Crush Games, the team behind Streets of Rage 4, with art from animation studio Supamonks, and it's one of the best games on the Switch. You're in Talum, a dark fantasy world ruled by a tyrant called Sun King Azra, who has declared all magic users enemies of the state. You play as one of several heroes, each with their own combat style, fast combo chains, elemental spells, magical counters, fighting your way through his forces to bring him down. The roguelite structure means death sends you back to start a new run with permanent upgrades purchased using crystals collected mid-run. But runs aren't all the same. Paths branch, new encounters appear, areas evolve over time, and quests you pick up during runs send you back to specific locations to fight new bosses. The story is woven into the roguelite loop in a way similar to Hades. Each run reveals more about the world and characters. The combat is fast, deep, and deeply satisfying.
Crimson Order will send reinforcements soon.
It won't matter if we reach Mother before then.
Whether you want a chill puzzle adventure, a brutal action game, or a deep RPG, something on this list is going to hit. Drop a comment with which ones you've already played or which one you're grabbing first. And if this helped, a sub would mean a lot. See you in the next one.